Hey guys, so today we're going to be moving on from subtracting tenths to subtracting hundredths. We're going to do that in two ways again. We're going to start with that whole number, figure out how many hundredths we need to take away to get to our answer. And then we're also going to subtract like the more traditional way. We're going to do the borrowing and carrying over. So for this first way, again, just like the adding hundredths, what I found most useful is, let's look at this first problem. We have one or 100 hundredths. We have one minus however many hundredths equals 72 hundredths. So you might be able to do this in your head, but if it's a little tricky, think of it, just pretend the decimals aren't even there, and then imagine it like you're subtracting from 100. What do I need to subtract from 100 to get to 72? You can do that a couple ways. You could count up from 72. You could just count down in your head. Well, I need 8 to give me 80, another 20, so it'd be 28. If I subtracted 28 from 100, I would get 72. So how many hundredths would I need to subtract from 1 to get 72 hundredths? I would need to subtract 28 hundredths. So yeah, if you're finding it difficult because you're dealing with hundredths in your head, think of it just like ones and hundreds. Think about it like subtracting just from 100. But instead of 100 subtracting from 100, you're subtracting from a one whole. Instead of ones and tens, we're subtracting with tenths and hundredths. So so then let's look at this bottom one. 1 minus what equals 22 hundredths? Well, subtract 88 hundredths. Not 88 hundredths, excuse me, 78 hundredths. And then so those are fairly easy. You just gotta double check them because like it can be easy to make a mistake. But when we're subtracting and carrying and rounding, it's the same thing, except now instead of borrowing from the ones place and carrying it over to the tenths place, now there may be situations where you have to borrow from the tenths place, carry it to the hundredths place. Same way we add it. So let's look at that. So we have 1 and 43 hundredths minus 92 hundredths. So just like always, go all the way to the right to the farthest place value. That's our hundredths. Let's subtract those. 3 hundredths minus 2 hundredths. Can we do that? Yeah, we can do that. So that's 1 hundredth. And then 4 hundredths minus 9 hundredths. Can we do that? I mean, 4 tenths minus 9 tenths. Can we do that? No. But we can borrow from the ones place. So we take that 1. This becomes a 0. We're bringing that 1 over here. And it's like we brought 10 tenths, or that 1, 1. We brought 1, 1, which equals 10 tenths. It's like we added 10 tenths to the tenths place. So now we have 14 tenths minus 9 tenths equals 5 tenths. Bring the decimal down and subtract the 1. 0 minus 0 is 0. So 1 and 43 hundredths minus 92 hundredths is 51 hundredths. So now I chose this example, the next one, specifically for the reason that what do we do when we have a 0 in the tenths place, but we have some hundredths? Let's take a look. So we got 1 and 2 hundredths minus 79 hundredths. So step 1, go all the way to the farthest place value, hundredths. See if we can subtract it. 2 hundredths minus 9 hundredths. We can't do that. We need to borrow. Let's borrow from the tenths. Well, we can't borrow from the tenths because there's a 0 there. So what do you do? Just like regular subtraction, if it was whole numbers, we go to the next place value. So we're going to have to borrow from the ones to give us enough hundredths to subtract this. But we're not, well, let's take that 1 away first. Take that 1 and carry it. But we don't bring that 1 over to the hundredths. That's not what we do. if we brought that 1 over to the hundredths, that would be 100 hundredths. So this would be like, I guess you could technically do it, but there's an easier way to do it. So always go by place value. So we break that 1 up. Now we have a 0. And we're going to bring that 1 over here. And it's like we turn that 1 into 10 tenths. So now it's like we have 10 tenths. But we're not done there. We need to keep borrowing and bringing over to the hundredths, carrying over to the hundredths. So we don't need all 10 of those tenths. We definitely don't need all 10 of them. We just need one of them, just like if we were borrowing regularly. So we're just taking one of those tenths that we brought over from the ones, just taking one of those over, because 1/10 is equal to 10 hundredths. So now we have enough. Now we have 12 hundredths minus 9 hundredths equals 3 hundredths. Now we can subtract the tenths place. 9 tenths minus 7 tenths equals 2 tenths. Subtract the 1. 0 minus 0 is 0. So 1 and 2 hundredths minus 79 hundredths is 23 hundredths. So remember, when you borrow, if you can't take anything out of the middle, you got to go to the next place value. And then you break that 1 up, carry it over. So now we have 10 tenths. But we don't stop there. We take one of those tenths, and we bring it over here, and it becomes 10 hundredths. And then we have 12 hundredths minus 9 hundredths, which we were able to do. So on your work, it's going to look the same as yesterday. You can find it. So the first part will be finding out how many hundredths you need to make the answer after you subtract it from the whole number. And then I'll do the example right now. So let's look at what situation we have here. We have 1 and 23 hundredths minus 74 hundredths. So let's go all the way to the right to the hundredths. 3 hundredths minus 4 hundredths. Can't do that. So we need to borrow. Let's borrow from this tenths place. And we're going to show that borrow by highlighting. So that tenths place now is only 1/10 because we took one of those tenths. We brought it over here where it becomes 10, like 10 hundredths. Imagine we took that 1/10, brought it over here, it's 10 hundredths. And then we can write it, it's like 10 hundredths plus 3 hundredths, 13 hundredths. 13 hundredths minus 4 hundredths, that's 9 hundredths. Let's see, now we get to subtract the tenths. 1/10 minus 7 tenths. Well, we can't do that, so let's borrow from the ones. So we took that 1, we're bringing it over here. It's like we brought 10 tenths over. If I was writing it out in expanded form, it would look like that. Or 11 hundredths, same thing. 11 tenths, same thing. So then 11 tenths minus 7 tenths equals 4 tenths. Now let's subtract the 1. 0 minus 0 is 0. So 1 and 23 hundredths minus 74 hundredths is 49 hundredths. So easy. If you have any questions about this, if you need help, I'll be on Google Hangouts. And yeah, that'll be it. There's just 4 of these, so good luck with those. Talk to you guys soon.